Okay, if you turn to page 38B, I'm going to go over a practice quick 6. And it says before quiz 3F, but instead of having quiz 3F, we're going to have a quick 12. So this is a review before the quick 12. Okay, so the first question says, identify the percent of change as an increase or decrease, then find the percent of change. So the original is 450. The new is 350. So to find percent of change, first we have to find the change. The change is 100. Now, is this a change that's a decrease or change that's an increase? Obviously, if it went from 450 to 350, it's a decrease. Now, to find the percent decrease, we put change over original equals x over 100. Okay? Change over original equals x over 100. We say 450x equals 10,000. Divide 10,000 by 450, and we get 22.2%. Now you could round that to 22%, or you could keep it as 22.2. That's up to you, because I did not specifically tell you. Okay, number 2, we have an original of 250. We have a new of 150. You always find the change if you're looking for percent change. The change is 100. We do change over original equals x over 100. 250x equals 10,000. So x equals 40%. Now, that's a 40% decrease because the price went down. Now, I'm letting you use a calculator. But if you didn't have a calculator, let's think of what we could do with this fraction. First of all, we could get rid of both zeros, divide both by 10. Now I can divide both by 5. So I end up with 2/5 equals x over 100. So this you could actually do by hand. 5x equals 200, x equals 40. So when you don't have a calculator, it makes sense to simplify. When you have a calculator, it really doesn't matter. Okay, let's look at number 3. This says increase 60 by 15%. Now, words that are missing here is 15% of what? 15% of 60. So start with 60 and increase 60 by 15% of 60. So this becomes 60 plus 9, and that's 69. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to say, well, 60 is 100%. If I increase that by 15%, I'm looking for 115% of 60. So I'd use this percent proportion. But either way will give you an answer of 69. Okay, now, the next 3 problems are solving for different variables. Number 4 says put into function form. Well, function form means solve for y. Okay? So I'm going to take 7x plus 2y minus 5 equals 3x minus 4y plus 3. And I'm going to solve for y. Well, if I'm going to solve for y, I have to get every term that has a y on one side. So I'm going to add 4y to both sides. So now I have 7x plus 6y minus 5 equals 3x plus 3. Now I want the 6y by itself. So I'm going to add 5y, and I'm going to subtract 7x. That goes away, and I get 6y equals negative 4x plus 8. Now I'm going to divide by 6, divide by 6, divide by 6. Y equals negative 2/3 x plus 4/3. Okay? So from this, you remember function form means solve for y. And if you're solving for y, you have to get every term that has a y on one side, and then get rid of everything that doesn't have a y from that side. Okay, now, number 5 is y equals x over z plus w. Now, I see a fraction. I've told you, don't deal with the fractions. So what is the common denominator? It's a z. So that means to get rid of a fraction, I'm going to multiply every term, 1, 2, 3 terms, by z. zy equals z times x over z. Those z's cancel out. I'm left with zy equals x plus wz. Now, here, I multiplied z. Make sure you multiply both terms by z. So now I am solving for x. So I just subtract wz minus wz, and I get x equals zy minus wz. Okay, remember, never deal with fractions, multiply by the common denominator. Okay. Now this last one is where we learn to kick out grandma. So for those of you who forget what I mean by kick out grandma, let's just look at this example. 2 times a plus b. If I said to you distribute, you would say, okay, I multiply 2 times a, 2 times b, I get 2a plus 2b. I taught you this was grandma on the outside. These were the grandchildren. When grandma comes over, she brings cookies, and she gives both cookies to both kids. She would never ignore one. Now, if she brings the wrong kind of cookies, unlike you, these bratty little grandchildren will say, get out, grandma. So first you have to figure out who grandma is. Grandma is the common factor. Well, these both have 2 in common. So they said, leave, grandma, go bring back chocolate chip cookies. So they kick grandma out of the house. When she goes in, she multiplies. When she leaves, she divides. So 2a divided by 2 is a, 2b divided by 2 is b, and we're back to 2 parentheses a plus b. So before you can kick out grandma, you figure out who is the common factor. The common factor is x. So I put x on the outside of the parentheses. When grandma leaves, she divides. So ax divided by x is a, bx divided by x is b. So now I'm left with x times a plus b equals c. If I'm solving for x, that means I have to get x by itself, so I divide by a plus b. So x equals c over a plus b. Okay? Now, in this packet, you had practice problems for solving for different variables starting on page 32, and it continues to 38A. And the answers are posted in Google Classroom under the About section in the answer packet. So if you need practice solving for different variables, that's what you should do. But this will cover you for the quick 12.